Salve omnes, welcome to this training video on, historical linguistics, I guess we could call it. Basically, languages change as, you move through time and space. So I have two puzzles here on Polynesian sound changes, one on numbers and one on some just general words in Polynesian languages. So essentially, the first thing you need to recognize is that all of these languages are related. Just like, for example, Latin is the mother language that, for example, French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese come from. So those languages, the words in them are often closely related to the Latin word. So all of these Polynesian languages are related to each other. Now, if you have something like, for example, the word lupus in Latin, okay? So lupus means wolf in Latin. So then you can go to something like lobo in Spanish, which means wolf too. So you can see that lobo is kind of similar to lupus. So this is the basic principle. You could also point at something like the word Mensch in German is related to man in English. So things like that, so similar sounds. But one thing that we find in historical linguistics is that often the sound changes as you go from one language in a family to another language in the family follow very clear patterns. So, for example, where you might have a G in one language, when you get to the next language, all of the words that would have the G in that particular place in the word, whether it be at the beginning, middle, end, or maybe all three, that G might become a K sound in another related language. Because G and K are actually related sounds. They're both made in a similar part of the mouth, but the G is a voiced consonant and the K is unvoiced. Essentially, that means that when you say the g sound, there's a little vibration, whereas k doesn't have that vibration of your vocal cords. But anyhow, so the basic idea is with related languages, when you go from one to the other, often if you follow simple patterns of phonetic change, one consonant or one group of consonant equals a new consonant, right, in the other language, then you can account for many of the vocabulary differences. So if we look here in the Polynesian sound changes puzzle, we can see Maori, Tahitian, and Hawaiian are our three options here in this first chart. And then as we go down the columns, we find all of their various words with some blanks in that we're supposed to fill in. It tells us over to the side what these things mean. For example, the Maori word ingoa means name. The Hawaiian word inua also means name. And it doesn't give you the Tahitian word. But if you look at this and you see the ng in the Maori word and you see the just simple n in the Hawaiian word, those are the difference between those two. Look on down through the chart and see if you can find anything similar. Well, if I look down to, let's say, matangi and matai, all right, we see the ng in matangi, but there is no ng in matai, okay? I guess I should say it, matai. So that, and that's it's a glottal stop is what that little, what do we call it, an apostrophe, what the apostrophe is telling us. You don't really need to know what that is, but it's a different consonant from ng. So if we had continued across to the Hawaiian, you might guess for yourself that since the ng is in the Maori word, in the Hawaiian, based on what we saw in the first line, in the first row there, instead of ng we might have n, okay? And then conversely, if we're looking up at the first row, we see the missing Tahitian word, all right? And we know that the ng in the Maori word, if we look down to the third row, equals that apostrophe, which again is the glottal stop, that sound, then we're going to have that in the Tahitian word. So therefore, you could fill in ing, right, in the Tahitian, with the little apostrophe instead of the NG or the N. And then in the third row, if we go in to fill in the blank for the Hawaiian, well, we have matangi and then we have matai, right? And then we want to fill in a word for the Hawaiian. Well, what equals the NG from Maori in Hawaiian? Looking back, it's going to be an N, so we'd have matani. So that gives you the basics of how to approach this. So if you want to, you could do the rest of these on your own, following that same kind of procedure. As you fill in more blanks, you get more information along the way, and the information that you get helps you with the others to solve them. So you can't solve it all at once. You have to just sort of step your way through, finding the first thing that you're able to solve and then moving on from there. If you look at the Polynesian numbers, here we have more languages. We have Hawaiian, Maori, Nukuhiva, Rarotongan, and Samoan. But the basic idea is the same. These are, again, all Polynesian-related languages. And if you can look at, just in the first column, you can see the Hawaiian word kahi, and then you get tahi, tahi, ta'i, right, with the glottal stop again, and then tasi in Samoan. So you can see already there how the first letter is different in Hawaiian from the other languages. So apparently the T's all, change to K in Hawaiian. And then in that second syllable of the word, you get the he for the first three languages, and then you get he for Rarotongan and si for Samoan. So you get those differentiations there. So in place of the H, you're going to get the glottal stop, which looks like the apostrophe, or you're going to get the S in Samoan. So following those observations and others that you'll find along the way, you'll be able to solve this and fill in all the blanks for the numbers. Well, that's the basic idea. I hope that made sense. I hope you learned a few things, and I hope you try these two puzzles and turn them in for points if you're doing linguistics cohort with me here at BGA.